What's up, everybody? Chris Coname here, and just before we get on with the video, I want to give some spoiler alerts for this show. I'm gonna be talking about Deathstroke, Knights and Dragons, and kind of going into the detail what the plot is, and talking about some of the characters that we see and all that. So the show is obviously about Deathstroke and his like kind of anti-hero life of being a mercenary and dealing with his family problems. And I think we're just gonna explore how he kind of gets himself a better look to his family and all of his. Everybody just thinks he's a total jerk and just like he's manipulative and all that. So we get introduced to Deathstroke, obviously, with his origin kind of playing out exactly how it is in the comics, where he's given like some kind of serum that makes him more better than the average person, which does mess with his genes and kind of eventually leads to one of the villains of the story. And then we're given to his wife in the story, Abigail Wilson, and she and him have a history of being in the military together. She was actually one of his commanding officers or so. So she kind of trained him and taught him to be this kind of person that he is now. And so we get to see her, but like we get to see her in the beginning. She's kind of just rusty because she hasn't been doing military stuff in a while. So we don't get to see her what she used to be, but later we see her training and trying to hone those skills that she used to have back then. So that's kind of cool to see these two kind of have this dynamic of they're just very, very, very strong people, and that's probably why they brought them together and all that. And then we're shown their son, Jericho, or Joseph Wilson, and what he is basically one of Deathstroke's sons, and Deathstroke is very known to have a lot of children in the comics, and this is just one of him. Joseph Wilson, otherwise known as Jericho, has these psionic abilities which allow him to just do stuff with his mind. But in the story, it kind of has a different look to it, because instead of just being just clear energy or so, it's more of just like lightning based and all that. So we see him, but in the beginning of the story, we see him as that he has like a kind of love for his father and all that, but we see after this certain event that happens, it kind of makes him lose all respect for his father and just makes him realize that his father is really a bad guy and all that. And we just see a different dynamic from what it is in the comics. Deathstroke is more played as a villain in the comics, while Jericho is more of a hero. He's been with the Teen Titans and all that. So it's a cool dynamic. And one of the big villains that we get to see is the Jackal, but this is all wrong because he's saying that he is the Ravager and all that, but we get to see the Jackal, and it's a kind of interesting character. The Jackal, I don't know his name at this point because I don't know how to pronounce it and all that, but in the story, Jackal is like another person who trained with Slade Wilson or Deathstroke in the military, and they're just like kind of these two people that are like equal levels with each other. But in this story, he has more of a kind of actual Jackal look and all that, but this is what he looks like in the comics, which is just kind of a copy of Deathstroke. And I like his character because it gives him a very intimidating look, and just the voice acting they gave him, it just, you can feel this kind of power that he has over these people and all that. Like he knows what he's doing, and just like he knows how to get under their skin about certain things. So it's cool seeing his character, and like I feel that he is like the big bad of the whole story. Like if Deathstroke's gonna need to stop anybody, it's mainly him from doing anything. And then we get cool little characters that we've mainly known in the comics. We get Bronze Tiger, which is an interesting character because he's kind of brought in as like a kind of joke, but at the same time he is like an actual threat to Deathstroke because they're kind of like on the same terms of combat fighting with each other. And it's cool to seeing him and just like his kind of weird story with Deathstroke and all that, and just seeing that he worked for the Jackal and all that, and now he's just kind of on his own being a freelance mercenary. And then we get one of the coolest entrances within the story, which was Lady Shiva, which is Deathstroke himself says is one of the most strongest combatant in the world and all that. So that was cool, and I hope to see more of her because I barely ever heard of her, and she just sounds deadly and all that. And then we're given Slade Wilson's daughter in the comics, which is Rose Wilson, aka the second or third Ravager, I think. And her character is exactly how Joseph is in the comics. They are heroes mainly, but in this story they're made to be villains to like give a purpose for Deathstroke on what he has to do and all that. And just she kind of showing the whole that Deathstroke isn't a good guy. He is this guy who sleeps with other women and all this. And yeah, I feel like that's an interesting story to tell with Deathstroke being mainly a villain in any story that you'll read about him and all that. And some people think that going back to Ravager, not Ravager, the Jackal, they think it's his son because the Ravager was not Ravager, the Jackal is kind of the other character that was the Ravager in it, because first it's Grant Wilson, which is Slade Wilson's first son, but then it goes him. So people are thinking that the Jackal must be Grant Wilson because it would make sense, and kind of that Grant Wilson isn't really in this story, and it's just weird to like think of Grant Wilson not in a story with Deathstroke because they've been kind of showing him a lot in certain shows. So maybe he is, and we'll see how that plays out. And not the last character, but we are also given a look at Hive, which is also another character that is a part of Deathstroke's story within this, but also in the comics because they're kind of the group that like hires him to like kill the Teen Titans when he's first introduced, and we kind of see that group play out, and it's a very interesting group because they are all kind of, they don't look like this, but they do have like kind of B-related looks to them, and we get to see how that is. And even Rose Wilson's name, she's not given her hero name yet, but she is known as the Hive Queen, which is kind of just saying that she's the leader of this kind of subsection of the Hive, and we'll later see what happens to the Jackal and all that. So yeah, they are like the kind of minions that we're going to be dealing with if you watch this story and all that. And then we were given the look at Wintergreen, but in the story he's a different race. He's a black guy in this, but still plays the same role as he is. Wintergreen is basically the Alfred to Deathstroke's Batman, and we kind of see that relationship. As he says, he's kind of like the godfather to Joseph, and he worries about him too. And just to like think about like what would he think about this would be an interesting story to tell itself. So yeah, that's what I wanted to talk about for this story of Deathstroke Knights and Dragons. I didn't want to be too spoilery with it, so I hope it doesn't ruin the story, and I hope you guys go see it. It's on CW Seed not CW Seed. It's on one of the CW streaming service, and it's just a really good story. I like the animation. It's very like good, and it kind of looks like a comic book, as you'll like notice with during the whole process of watching it. And yeah, I'll probably do another kind of review of the episode once it comes out because I'm kind of liking it and all that. And I guess it'll be the end of the video. I hope you guys enjoy. Have a great day.
Tell me pretty lies, look me in the face. Tell me that you love me, even if it's fake.